Thank you so much, Steve, for your time today. You're obviously the founder of OneID. Gosh, I remember years ago when I had a business in Dublin signing up for that, and I'm wondering how that's going, just as a little aside.
Well, things are going pretty well now. We're focusing now on making it easy for people to make donations, and so we've shown people that you can get about 3 times the donations using our technology versus what you're doing now. And that attracts a lot of interest, so we've been able to close some pretty significant deals.
Well, that's great. I've obviously lost track, so I must go and check it all out again. My main interest, though, was that that panel you were just on at the Future of Money, and I was so fascinated by all the conversations that were going on. And obviously very excited to hear that you've not only invested in Bitcoin yourself, but you're also investing in companies as regards the security aspect of Bitcoin. Could you tell me a bit about what that focus is?
Sure. As an investor as an investor in Bitcoin itself, right? I bought thousands of Bitcoins, and I wanted to store it securely. And I realized that every single one of these Bitcoin exchanges is not the place to store your money, a Coinbase, whatever, that if there's any kind of malware that affects your computer, that your Bitcoin can be totally lost. And so that was, and I tried talking to all the Bitcoin exchanges about using OneID. You can use this to secure your Bitcoin, and they said, "Oh yeah, that sounds great," and then nothing happened. And so I said, "Okay, fine. If, they won't do it. I'll create a company that secures Bitcoin in a way that people can trust it, and not have to go through the hassles that I have to go through right now to secure my Bitcoin."
So did you actually start the company, or have you invested in another founder who started the company?
I started it and put money in it and started hiring people to do it, to solve the problem.
And because security is such a big issue. I've been helping a startup who is a security startup, and I see, oh my God, like all the hacking that's going on. My password was one of the Adobe passwords the other day, and it's pretty shocking, like nothing's secure anymore. So why more attention isn't being paid to that area, I can't imagine. But so obviously you're ahead of the game focusing on that area, but also to protect Bitcoin per se. If that's not focused on, then from what you were saying about the malware, I'm thinking, God, how many people are at risk here?
Well, I think pretty much anyone is at risk unless you're storing your Bitcoin in an offline wallet. But that's pretty hard to do for most people, and even for experts when I tell people how I keep my Bitcoin secure. Because the thing is that if you hold a Bitcoin yourself, then you have to worry about, okay, well, what's going to happen if there's some sort of catastrophe at your house? Well, you can't just store it in your house. So if you store it in the bank account, well, what happens if somebody breaks into your bank vault? Okay, well, maybe you should store it in 2 places. But if you store it in 2 places, then is it 2 out of 3? Because if one of the 2 places is gone and it's split, then you can't access your funds at all. Yeah. And if it's just 1 out of the 3, then it's 3 times more risky than it was before. So how do you store it securely in a way that only you can be assured that you can access it, but that you could access it from anywhere? So if I'm traveling, I'm in New York, for example, and I need access to that big pile of money for some reason, that I can instantly tap into it without exposing the secrets on the internet where anyone can tap into it. So where do you store those secrets, and how do you access those secrets in a way that you don't have to worry that it's going to be compromised? And so those are the problems that we can actually solve today, but nobody is solving those problems. There are no products that solve those problems.
And what's your vision for Bitcoin? Because you've obviously believed in it enough to invest personally, and now also to get a startup up and running on the security aspect. Where do you see it's going to all go?
Well, I think that if you look at all the metrics, everything is going up. You look at, like, for example, the number of people using Coinbase right now is growing 10% a week. That's huge, and we're just at the starting point here. So if you look at, Bitcoin's gone up in value by a factor of 100 in the last year, and yet most people have not heard of it, and even if they've heard about it, they don't hold Bitcoin. And so we're at the very beginning of this trend, not at the end. And so if you thought 100 times your money was good in the first year, I think it's quite likely that you'll see another 100 times increase in the value of Bitcoin over the next year or 2.
Most investors are sitting on the fence, though. I gather from Naval Ravikant's talk at TechCrunch Disrupt that maybe they might have invested a little bit of their spare change in Bitcoin, but they're not willing to invest in Bitcoin companies just yet. When do you think that will change, or do you think it will change? Or, I mean, I know sometimes they're a conservative bunch, some of the venture capitalists, but I'm sort of questioning why they wouldn't be hopping onto this bandwagon, because I mean this is the centre of innovation, the Bay Area. What's going on?
Well, I mean there are risks, there are unknowns and risk factors, and because there are unknowns and risk factors, then people say, oh yeah, well anything that goes up so fast can also fall that fast. And so people have said, well, it's tulip mania all over again, and people are afraid of investing their money in this. And so I have friends that I told, look, I made $2 million in 3 weeks on Bitcoin, and you could do that too. And they said, oh no, sell. As soon as you made that money, sell. And I look at it from a long-term perspective. So it really depends on your point of view and what your risk tolerance is, and whether you believe the numbers. And I think it's far more likely that Bitcoin is going to be worth 100 times what it is today in a year than it's going to be worth less.
And I heard Jared saying that they're actually they'll stop releasing Bitcoin at some point. Is that going to affect that ability for it to grow in value?
No, not at all. In fact, look, it's all about supply and demand. And the supply is finite. There are about 12 million Bitcoins in circulation right now, and that grows at a very slow pace. Yeah. And it's a controlled pace that gets slower and slower and slower and slower over time until at some point it just becomes there is no growth. And the reason for that, it was actually designed on purpose, because it gave people an extra incentive to get into the system because you would get rewarded. And as more and more people got into the system, then once you have enough people in the system, then you don't need to reward people anymore, but you just need to reward them on an ongoing basis, on a transactional basis. And so it was built to give extra rewards for the people who got in early, and to have good rewards for then the people who are in, so that it always adjusted the rewards commensurate with the risk.
So I guess if this security startup you're building now is going to make Bitcoin more secure, maybe they'll start to hop on board as far as investing.
I think it certainly makes it easier to hop on board, because you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I lost my private key, or oh, where did I put that again? Or oh yeah, I was on my hard drive and someone recycled the computer, or what have you. I mean, there are all these horror stories about people losing their Bitcoin. So, but fundamentally, you have to get in. So you have to make the decision to get into Bitcoin in the first place, and that's really the biggest leap for people to do.
The biggest risk. Look, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.